pretty exact and blunt in this video. And before I begin, I want to also disclose that I am also Canadian, but I have dual citizenship, so I enjoy the benefits and sometimes the downsides to both. So first things first, right? I am a day trader, but the problem again with Canada, at least for Canadians wanting to be day traders or even very active in the stock market, there's so many crazy rules. Actually, in trading in general, there are so many crazy rules. Unlike the U.S. is the markets are policed by the SEC, and you have little government branches coming out of the SEC with the NFA and CFTC and all these other guys. But the SEC sort of is the big daddy or the granddaddy of everyone else. In Canada, unfortunately, each province has their own securities council, as they call them, right? And the biggest one is the Ontario Security Council, or the OSC, or whatever they're calling themselves these days. Um, or IIROC, or whatever. So there's a lot of them. But here's the thing, right? And if you're Canadian and you want to be a trader, or maybe you're doing good already, then that's great. But here's the thing, right? Um, Canada has always been really behind in all things technology especially when it comes to trading. First of all, there's only two good brokers that are in Canada, and here's the worst part. Um, the one that's actually is still good, or at least the best, unfortunately, is Interactive Brokers in Canada. So that's Interactive Brokers. There's a specific rule by the government that is set that if you're going to be an investment brokerage in Canada, you have to open an office in the country. Whereas in the US, if you want to be a broker there, you can have your offices abroad. Nobody cares, right? The US is totally the bastion of, free market, if you like. So that's what's so great about, the US. So Interactive Brokers allows you to trade futures, forex, stocks, of course, and options. Bitcoin, not as much, and they allow you to trade bonds. The other guy or the other person, the other institution that actually also trade as well, that's from the U.S. is Thinkorswim, and that's been bought by TD Ameritrade. So the parent company, parent bank, so TD, does offer Thinkorswim in Canada. But here's the worst part. This is the sad part, if you like. TD in Canada only offers stocks and stock options trading with Thinkorswim. You can't trade futures and forex. If you're Canadian, it doesn't matter where you live in Canada, whether you're in Toronto or Vancouver, doesn't matter. You can't trade futures and forex. Whereas in America, heck, even in Singapore, or Europe, because Thinkorswim has offices in Singapore and also in London, you can trade whatever you want, futures and forex, right? So the company itself, Thinkorswim, quick side discussion. Thinkorswim was created by traders many moons ago to trade all those all the security types out there. So going back to Canada, you're already at a disadvantage right there. You only have one broker, right? Literally, that allows you to trade all. And then you got different brokers in Canada that allow you to trade different things. Like you got Jitney Trade that allows you to trade futures. You got Desjardins, who will let you trade stocks and options. And then you got Questrade that allows you to trade stocks, CFDs, and forex. Okay. And here's the worst part, or the sad part. Perhaps you could even call it archaic or draconian. If you live in a province called Alberta, you won't be allowed to trade forex. You have to have either $1 million in your bank or in assets to be able to trade forex. Stupidest thing you could ever hear or you could ever see from a country that as democratic or as developed as Canada, right? But there you go. So if you're listening to this and you're from Alberta and you want to trade forex, try moving somewhere else. But if you don't care about that, then you can trade futures, obviously, and all the other stuff. So there are different rules set by different provinces, and that's a sad thing because now you have to worry about what the federal rule is, and you have to worry about the individual provincial rules, and it just becomes so crazy. Whereas in the States, true that there are some rules state by state, but the SEC still enforces everything state by state because it is a federal office, right? It's a federal institution. So if I still have your attention, again, I'm not trying to diss Canada. I want to be very clear because for me, being a day trader was the country itself being Canadian, the country itself did not help me at all to do well in the market because it was natural for me to move on from stocks and options straight to commodities, straight to forex, and I couldn't do that because there were so many different rules. Plus, so the way I got around it was, move to the states and become a dual citizen, and it worked out pretty well. So, and again, there are so many brokers in the states. You got E-Trade, you got Schwab, I guess you have so many choices. You even have Robinhood now. So there are so many choices. These things that aren't even in Canada. And before you even continue and say, well, you're an idiot, I can just open an account in America. No. Here's the sad part. Canada has given notice to all institutions in the U.S., brokerage institutions, that you cannot open accounts for Canadians. Those found doing so will incur some hefty penalties and some consequences or whatever, right? So, and I've done this before. I tried opening a TD Ameritrade account before when I was in Canada, and they're like, nope, sorry, even though yes, we're owned by a Canadian company, can't do it. So they were able to do it as soon as I got a place in the states, and it worked out pretty well. So it's really sad, like I said, and this is one of the reasons why like we barely have Canadian clients because I think they're already discouraged at the beginning because they already know their choices are so limited, right? Of course, nothing is stopping Canadians from opening brokerage accounts with, like, I don't know, somebody from the Cayman Islands, right? I think Trade King and a couple other brokerages can do that, or even in the UK, you can do so as well. But it's just so tedious. It really is just so tedious, right? Whereas if you open an account, it's easy and it's done. So you basically only have one major broker that you can go with. And then I mean it's not a bad broker. It's one of the biggest brokers out there, Interactive Brokers, but it would be nice to have um, some competition and somewhere to compare what you're doing, right? So so for us, we're not necessarily saying that we're abandoning our Canadian operations or anything, but for the last few years, we only have one Canadian client, I think, and it's been the same every year. And and that's like I said, it's not. I'm not sad about it. I understand why, because even if you live in Toronto or in Montreal, right, you really won't be able to unless again, if you trade stuff outside of stocks, it's going to be difficult. Whereas if you trade stocks, sure, Thinkorswim is there. But if you want to do everything, right, like I do, I trade all of them, then it's really, really difficult, right? And the funny part about this, that right, is that I even have clients from Mongolia who open accounts in with TD Ameritrade in the U.S. because there's no rule for Mongolians not to open accounts in the U.S. You can open an account and everything's good to go. So it's really sad if you really look at it, right? And it really strikes me really badly, just knowing that we're as a Canadian, we're literally right across the border, just north of the border, and yet we can't open an account south of the border. Whereas this person or some person from Cambodia or some person from Mongolia, as long as they're not in the terrorist list in the U.S., they can definitely open an account in the U.S. and trade all of them, right? So I don't know whether it's something you can laugh at, but it's just what it is, right? And so I'm making this video to really kind of just give you the reality. If you're Canadian watching this video, if you're American or you're not Canadian, you don't care about this video. Stop watching the video. It doesn't apply to you. But if you're Canadian, know what you're getting into, and you know that this is going to be how it is. If you're going to be happy with just trading stocks, then yeah, you can just say, yeah, I'm an idiot. I made this video. I just wasted 8 minutes of your time. But one day, if you want to trade everything else, it's just going to be more difficult. And it's not like these rules are ever going to change. They are just getting worse and worse over the last several years, and it's sad. It really is sad. I mean, it prompted me from actually, going to the States so that I can actually trade. Because if I stayed in Canada, tried to do this, it's going to be extremely difficult. I wouldn't have all the tools that I have now. I wouldn't be able to have all the access that I have now. It's just so many things that I would be missing. And again, being in the U.S., there's just so many opportunities, so many options, so many choices, and so many features you can get from different brokers as opposed to just what you only have in Canada, right? Even the UK, which is the world's second financial center or country, if you like, of course have more options, which makes sense. But it shouldn't be the case. It really shouldn't be the case where, a member of G7 nation group is having a hard time opening brokerage accounts for their citizens. So what is Canada trying to do? Are they trying to stop you from being rich or something? I don't know, but so yeah, so if you're a Canadian and you're wanting to trade futures or forex, I mean, you only have one option. You really do. If you're trying to, and I suppose I'll end with something positive, right? In the US, trading CFDs is largely outlawed. It's illegal, it's banned. Whereas outside of the US, so in Canada and everywhere else, you can trade CFDs. So that's sort of the positive aspect of that, I guess, if you kind of look at it that way. But that's really where it is, and it's sad, but, so the video itself was just to kind of enlighten a lot of people, knowing what the risks are of not being able to trade a lot or not having a lot of options being Canadian, and it's sad, but it's something you just have to go through, right? So, anyways, you guys take care. You guys have a wonderful day, and yeah, peace out.